I'm Kris Thorsness. I'm an attorney and an Olympic gold medalist, and I'm a campfire kid.
Before we get to the campfire days, can you just share who you are now, what you do, your interests and your hobbies, where you live, that kind of stuff?
Sure, sure. I currently live in Rochester, New York, and I'm an attorney, like my father and my brother before me. And I'm sort of, I wouldn't say semi-retired. I work part-time these days, and I practice largely in Title IX in athletics, so gender equity in athletics. And then I also am an arbitrator for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And so, for instance, I arbitrated a selection dispute for the U.S. bobsled team going to Milano a month or so ago. And then I'm also an arbitrator for the International Court of Arbitration for Sport, which deals with sporting disputes all around the world, and was fortunate enough to be one of 12 arbitrators from CAS who spent a month in Paris the summer of 2024 arbitrating disputes that arose during the course of the Olympic Games. And that was very interesting. I heard cases involving weightlifting and swimming and water polo and track and field, and then of course got to run around Paris a lot, which was a blast. And worked with some amazing people there. So that's what I do professionally these days. I'm still involved with rowing, which was my sport, and I've served on the board of directors for U.S. Rowing. I've been a rowing referee for 20 some odd years now. Served on U.S. Rowing's referee committee, a referee at local national regattas, including the national team trials and Olympic team trials. They like to have somebody like me who's actually raced in those trials, officiating at them, and I understand that the athletes appreciate that as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I do, and it keeps me out of trouble for the most part.
Yeah, I remember reading or finding you were an attorney and then you were working in gender equity in sports and then just all the things you do in athletics and like this person just gets more and more amazing, just all the things you do. So let's bring it back a few years to Campfire. So when did you attend Campfire? What programs?
Well, I started out as a bluebird in either second or third grade. I can't quite remember. So that would have been 1968, 69, probably, way back when.
Mhm.
And then, and went through the campfire programs from then on. And I started attending what you guys call Camp K the summer after my third grade year. I started going to camp and absolutely loved it. And I have to say that it's really not an exaggeration to say that going to camp changed my life in a lot of ways. It was a real foundational, formational experience for me. And so I went to camp every summer from the summer after my third grade year till the summer after my junior year in high school. So I guess 8 summers. Started out just, going for a week and then extended it out each year a little longer. And my last 2 years there, I was a CIT, a counselor in training. So I was there for, I think, all summer. I think it was an 8-week period or something like that. And, just being in that environment was so enriching and eye-opening for me. My family were pretty conservative folks, and I had 2 older brothers, and pretty traditional in terms of gender roles and all of that sort of thing. And suddenly I found myself in this environment where women were in charge. And at that time, of course, Camp K was just girls. And so, all the staff were women, all the counselors were women, and then our groups in the cabins, we had a tremendous amount of autonomy in determining what we were going to do day to day, but also we'd take a 3-day, 2-night overnight trip each week. And we planned that. We decided where we were going. We planned all of our food, all of our equipment. If we left something behind, it was on us, And and learning to make those kinds of decisions and planning and preparation and working together. And then in addition to that, just the physical challenges of swimming in that crazy freezing cold lake, which we did all the time. And, and climbing mountainsides and going on these long trips with, all of our equipment on our backs. And, um, and the friendships I developed too were so important to me, and many of them I kept for well into adulthood, and I'm still Facebook friends with some of my old camp friends. uh, and so I loved camp. It was just a tremendous experience for me. In fact, when I go back to Alaska, I make a point of trying to drive down to Kenai Lake so I can go wander around the camp. It's usually closed when I'm there, but it's great for me to just kind of go back and take that trip down memory lane in a place that was so important to me.
Yeah, well, I would love to stay connected and yeah, have you come and meet everybody next time you're up here. That'd be
Yeah,
amazing.
I'd love to.
Did you have a camp name?
No, I don't think I did. Did I? No, no, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, the campers didn't have those. Some of the staff had them, but the campers didn't really have them, I don't think, really, back when I was there.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a particular memory that stands out to you? Sounds like, you remember a lot and think of it fondly, but anything in particular?
Well, there was one day we were hiking the Devil's Pass Trail,
Hmm.
and um, and you climb up. Begins with this big climb, and you end up in the pass, and so you're right at or above the tree line there, so it's pretty open. And we came over a rise, and there had to have been 100 doll sheep right there in front of us, and on either side of the trail. And there was this ram standing up above, with the big curl in the rack, just looking, giving us the eye. And and we just walked down the trail, and they kind of made room for us, and the little lamblings bouncing around, and in this incredibly beautiful setting with these incredible animals on either side of us, and we just walked right through the middle. Um, that was a cool experience. And when you growing up in Alaska, I think you get kind of jaded to some of those sorts of things because you see wildlife all the time and the mountains are right there. But even then, as a I guess I was a teenager, I was pretty impressed. It was pretty amazing. Um, and just we used to have sort of a music session after each meal in the lodge, and then the counselors would get their guitars out and we'd all sing goofy songs, and uh, and that was always a lot of fun too. I can't carry a tune in a bucket, but I love to sing. And so you get me in a great big group where you can't actually hear me, and then I can just belt it out and have a great time. And I used to love that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you ever meet Joan Hurst? She was the
Oh
CM at the
yes.
time. Okay,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I've
Oh
been learning a
yeah.
little bit about her and want to start gathering some more quotes of people who remember her. So how do you remember Joan Hurst?
Well, she was the director of Campfire, and she was also, I think, my first couple of years at camp, at least, she was the camp director down at Camp K.
Hmm.
And we probably contributed to her collection of gray hairs because me and my friends were always doing stupid things. And um, um but yeah, she was a very strong woman, and I think some people may have been intimidated by her because she had the strength, that she wasn't, she wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? She's very businesslike. And so, of course, we were all terrified of her because she was this sort of serious woman. But at the same time, you could tell that she had this great depth and strength of character. And because she was in charge of all of this, this whole crazy situation. And,
Yeah.
I think we all admired her a lot. And that more so as I got older and I wasn't afraid of her.
All right. So you talked already a bit about the skills and lessons you learned from Campfire, but any more or anything in particular that has just stayed with you until today and influenced your personal and professional journey?
Oh yeah, well, I think I mentioned, that a lot of what we did was goal setting and planning, but also, execution, doing the hard work. And and so and recognizing that discomfort doesn't mean that you necessarily have to stop, right? Yeah, sometimes that's just the price for the prize at the end. And it certainly played into my athletic career. When I went off to college and started competing at a high level in rowing, and then later on when I was on the U.S. national team, uh, a lot of those lessons about just pushing myself that I learned at camp, carrying a pack up steep hills, and in the rain and all the other things we did. And I think and working as a member of a team and thinking of myself as a member of a team. Um, uh, those are lessons that I first really started learning at camp. And so that was really useful in my athletic career, and then also as an attorney. And again, being a part of a team, and that's something I've always really liked professionally, is when I get an opportunity to work as a member of a team. And and back when I was a little kid, there weren't team sports for girls until seventh grade. The boys had little league and some football, I think, but there was no organized athletics for girls. And so we didn't have that opportunity, I think, to develop a lot of those teamwork skills that a lot of boys did by playing little league and football and their sports. And but my experience at camp helped me to start developing those skills early on. And those are crucial skills for success in almost any endeavor, particularly professionally. Learning to work with other people, and learning to be a part of a team, and to share the work, and to take your share of the work, and to just work together toward a common goal. And So yeah, that was really important for me in my development into adulthood, or semi-adulthood, as I like to call it. I'm 66 years old, but I engage in what I call a relentless pursuit of immaturity because it's more fun.
Yeah, I love that. So I'd love to hear a bit about your journey to becoming an Olympic gold medalist. And I read that you had never even rowed until you got to college because there wasn't any
That's right.
rowing in Alaska.
No, there wasn't any then.
Yeah.
My brother John rowed at the University of Washington. He was 4 years older than I, and I played tennis, volleyball, and basketball, and but I wasn't a star at any of them. I wasn't particularly good at. So when I was going off to college at the University of Wisconsin, I really, I didn't have any plans athletically. And my brother said, "Hey, why don't you go out for the rowing team? They've got a good rowing team." And he said, "You're kind of small, but you've got a good head for it. So why don't you give it a try?" And so I was like, "Oh, okay." So uh, at 5'9", I was small for a open weight female rower, um, both in college and then especially on the world scene. And the Russians used to pat me on the head, "Cute little head again." And but So they would all the freshman registration was done in these long lines, because this is of course pre-computers, and so the coaches, the rowing coaches and the captains would go through these registration lines and talk to everybody who was taller than me. And so they were recruiting these two women standing behind me. I'm standing there trying to look really tall, and they're ignoring me. Um, and they gave flyers to these women standing behind me, who, as soon as they left, they probably dropped their flyers. So I snagged one up, found out about the organizational meeting, and showed up. And there were 150 women out for the freshman rowing team, or the novice rowing team. We had no cuts. And when we went to nationals the following spring, we had 12 rowers and 2 coxswains left. People just self-selected out because rowing is a sport about hard work. I've been known to say that rowing is about who's willing to suffer the most, the longest. And there's a lot to be said about that. So I got into rowing, and it appealed to I've always thought it's the perfect Alaskan sport. That like cross-country skiing, because there's a lot of pain and there's a ton of work in almost absolute anonymity, except for now with Jesse Diggins bringing attention to cross-country. And there's no money in it and no glory, but it's one of the best things you can ever do. And so I really got into it. I love being on the water. I love being outdoors. I love being part of that team, that organism that's bigger than yourself. And I love the hard work. I just dove into it. So started rowing in college and was successful at the collegiate level, and then caught the attention of the national team coaches and got invited to a development camp right after my senior year, national team development camp, and then did well enough there to be invited to the U.S. national team selection camp that summer. This is the summer of '82. And by some miracle, I made the team. I'm still not quite sure how that happened. And my coach isn't either. And then so that was my first U.S. national team. On non-Olympic years, we'd go to World Championships, and then on Olympic years, of course, we'd go to the Olympics. And so got a World Championship, my first World Championship silver medal that summer as part of the U.S. Women's 8, and then finished up in college, and went up, then moved to Boston because there was a national team training center there. My national team coach said either go to Boston or Seattle, and he was the coach in Seattle, and he scared me too. Although we're very, very close friends now, but so I decided I'd go to Boston, and so went to Boston to start training and trained there, and made the national team again in '83. Got another silver medal at the World Championships, and then was fortunate enough to make the 1984, which we knew was going to be a very fast boat. For the first time, we did a time trial. I think the second day after the lineup had been announced, and our coach would not let our coxswain tell us what our time was because it was fast. And we were saying, what was our time? What's our time? She's like, I can't tell you, but it's fast. And we're like, okay, that bodes well. And then we went over to Europe and raced the European teams and did very well there, won there. And so came into the Olympics in Los Angeles favored to win, which was just insane. I mean, just imagine that, anything short of an Olympic gold medal is failure. And so it was just a little stressful. And I was one of the youngest, if not the youngest ones in our boat too. And a lot of my teammates had been on the national team for forever. I mean, one of them was on the first ever U.S. women's national team in 1975. And so these were like the goddesses of my sport. And here I am, this sort of idiot kid, with this weird haircut, and they, and I listened to punk music, and I was I was from another planet as far as they were concerned. But I rode real hard, and so we were nervous. We didn't have our best race, but we did what we needed to do to win. And I don't know if you've seen that it's on YouTube. If you search for the U.S. 1984 U.S. Women's Olympic 8. You can see videos of our race. And it was neck and neck down till about the last 200 meters. And then we just sort of kicked it into overdrive and moved away. So yeah, it was a crazy experience. There's video of us walking from because what you do is you pull into this dock in front of all the grandstands. And back then, that you didn't get to go get pretty and put on your podium pants or anything like that. You just got out of the boat, and of course the shoes are bolted into the boat, so we're all in socks or barefoot, and in our racing gear, and we're hot, and we kind of, oh hey, this is cool, you walked up this long walkway up to the medal stand, and there's a video, and I'm walking, and my palms were sweating, and I was wiping my palms on my shorts, and I'm going, I can't believe this is happening to me. And you can see this on this video of me kind of shaking my head and going, I can't believe this is happening to me, because I really couldn't. It was surreal, to say the least. And but as Olympic venues go, the rowing venue is relatively intimate. There are thousands of people there, but there probably are not tens of thousands of people there, right? And so we walked up there, and it was so cool to look up, because we're at home, right? Because all of my other racing at the elite level had been in Europe, where they would have tens of thousands of people at the World Championships. It was crazy. But here we are. We could look up at the grandstands and see people, coaches and people I rode with, and somehow my mom circumvented all of the security, like only my mom could. And we were standing here, and about maybe 15 feet over to the right of us, there was some flagpoles. They were not the ceremonial flagpoles. They were over there. And here's my mom hiding behind one of these flagpoles with her little Kodak Instamatic camera, taking pictures of us, and she's like, hi, girls. And my friends are like, hi, Mrs. Thorsness. I'm like, security. And so, but it was great to be home for that. I mean, it was a lot of pressure to perform, certainly, but being able to share that with people who I'd known for years, old teammates, old coaches, family. My brother, who got me into rowing, had never seen me row until the Olympic final. He flew in the night before, and so that was real special to be able to share that with him too. There's a great picture taken after I ended up getting doping tested. They took one person from each boat. So I got tested for drugs, which was really kind of funny, because I was the smallest one there next to the coxswain. But once I finished that, then I was able to go and meet my family. And there's this great picture of me. I jumped up into my brother's arms, and I wrapped my arms and legs around him. And he was a big guy, so he's holding me, And it was a crazy, special thing. And and to share it with my folks, and then going home to Anchorage. Alaskan had never won an Olympic medal of any kind, let alone a gold one. And so they got a little excited, and people met me at the airport, and they had a parade. Of course, it rained on my parade, and and the local luminaries came out, the politicians and all, but then it was fun to just see old friends, old buddies of mine, and like played basketball with in high school, and because you know how it is, it's this notion of individual achievement, I think, is just a myth. Because every step along the way in my development toward getting that Olympic gold medal, starting from my first time I started going to camp, when I was first playing organized sports, I had teammates, I had coaches, I had friends pushing me, supporting me, showing me how it's done, being mentors, being role models, and so that when I got to stand up on that medal stand, it was because of all those people, really. Yeah, I get to have a medal in my sock drawer. Do you want to see it? Hang on a
I
second, I'll
do.
get it.
Yeah.
And yes, I do keep it in my sock drawer.
Yeah. I actually, right before this, someone was like, "Oh, are you gonna ask her where she keeps it?" I was like, I didn't even think about that.
Here it is.
Wow.
It's been handled by thousands of people over the years. It has a ding in one edge where a second grader dropped it one time. But I feel like particularly because the U.S. Olympic team is the only Olympic team in the world that isn't government supported. It's all just
Hmm.
donations from corporations and individuals. I used to send $25 to the U.S. Olympic Committee when I was a little kid, and they'd send you a patch. Oh, I still have those patches. And so I think it's important for me to share it with people. And so I
Yeah.
take it out and go to schools and clubs and organizations and talk about goal setting and believing in yourself. And because certainly, I mean, I'm just about the least likely Olympic rowing champion there is. And I kind of feel like, well, I can do it. You can do it. And what's cool is that there have been a number of kids, young people, who've heard me talk, who've then ended up on Olympic rowing teams. And there was a girl from my high school, from West High, who I went back there with my medal after I got home from the Olympics in '84, and they had me talk to students. She looked at me, she said, "Oh, she's not so big, if she can do it, I can do it." And she went off and started rowing at Stanford, and she was on the team in '92, which I just think is so cool. And yeah. So and then I kept rowing after '84. I felt like I could get better, um, and my folks were supportive of that, particularly my dad. My mom kind of thought, gee, aren't you going to get a job one of these days and start, and I was in law school. I started law school, and while I was training, and so and I had a number of physical problems. Then I had some injuries that had required surgeries, and eventually I made the team in '88, but didn't get to race because I'd been injured, and so I ended up being an alternate. And so when I finished that, my orthopedist said, you're done. And I said, yeah, I kind of thought so. But I only had one semester left of law school. So I just went back to Boston, had my shoulder fixed again, finished my last semester of school, and started being a lawyer. And so, yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. And how many years was it between trying out for the team and then winning the Olympic gold medal?
Um, well, our college coach used to make us do the national team testing. There would be a series of tests through the course of the year. So starting my sophomore year, I started doing the testings,
Mm.
rowing machine tests and weightlifting tests, and but it really wasn't until my senior year that I kind of broke through. I did really, really well on the first testing of the year. I got the best score in the country on the rowing machine. And so that was December of '81, and made my first national team summer of '82. So the end of the school year, after the end of that
Yeah.
school year. And so I was on the team in '82 and '83, and so '84 was when we won the gold medal.
Wow. So in just a few years going from never rowing to being at the
Yeah,
top.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
started rowing in the fall of 1978,
Wow.
and and 6 years later, I had an Olympic gold medal. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. That's
I'm
incredible.
really physiologically, I'm too small, I'm too short, but in every other way, I'm physiologically really well suited for the sport. I have huge lungs and a hyper efficient heart. I have a head of solid concrete, And and so, and I had a real strong work ethic that was instilled in me very early on by my parents. And and rowing is one of those sports that almost more than almost anything I've heard of really rewards hard work. And yeah, and that was one thing I knew how to do. And so I just kept coming to practice, and working like crazy. And you just, and it's sort of one thing led to another. I was real fortunate in so many ways. I had great teammates, wonderful coaches, and the support of my parents, and I, like I said, my older brother John was just this wonderful role model in rowing and otherwise, and so it was, I was just really fortunate. A lot of things just lined up for me in the right order at the right time. I wasn't sick, I wasn't injured, those sorts of things.
Yeah. And so you come to Alaska with the gold medal. Rowing's not really a sport here. Um, but it seemed like your dad helped create the rowing association and
Well, actually, no, it
bring
was
rowing.
the my sister-in-law's sister.
Okay.
Do you know Ed Hall,
Ed.
Marietta Hall?
Okay.
Everybody calls her Ed. She, her sister Jerry Ann was married to my older brother John, and actually Jerry Ann went to camp. That's
Oh,
where I met Jerry Ann,
okay.
at camp. And when my brother told me that he'd taken her out on a date, however many years later, I said, "Don't screw it up." And they ended up getting married. But so yeah, oh yeah, it's all, it's all a network, right? And
Yeah.
and so Jerry Ann's sister Ed, I guess after I went to the Olympics, she decided to try rowing at Washington State University. So she rowed at Washington State. And then when she moved back to Alaska, she wanted to keep rowing. And so she founded the Anchorage Rowing Club. And so, because of the connection between the Hall and the Thorsness families, and so then after my father died, I guess it was after my father died. Yeah, he died in 2000. They named they used to have they have a corporate challenge race, a fundraiser for, and so they started the Dave, they call it the Dave Thorsness Regatta, but they call it the Dave. And at least it used to be that the proceeds were split between the Anchorage Rowing Club and the Alaska Heart Association, because my dad had heart disease. It's a thing we do. I had my first heart attack when I was 47. Thanks, Dad. And so and my brother John, of course, died of a heart attack at 64 4 years ago. So it's a subject that is important to us. But anyway, so yeah, so that's how that all got going, is the Camp K connection. Um, uh,
All right, where are we? So you talk to a lot of schools and just sharing your story. So what's just a piece of wisdom or encouragement that you might share with your younger self, especially about, the hard work it takes to be a rower or be an attorney or just, get
well,
through life.
I would tell myself not to worry so much.
Hmm.
I worried a lot. And to have faith in myself. Because that's one of the things I talk to kids about a lot, is that you have no idea what's possible. I mean, if you had told me when I was in high school that I was going to, win national championships in college and then get an Olympic gold medal, I would have told you you've been smoking too much weed. I mean,
Hmm.
it was completely not in the realm of possibility. Um, I thought going to the Olympics was the best thing a person could do since the time I was like 8, when I first saw it on my parents' black and white television. But um, but there was just nothing there. It was not something that would happen to somebody like me. And but you do the work. You show up every day and you give it your best effort every day. And some days are better than others. But you just keep coming back, right? And and after a year, you look back at where you started and you wish you had video, to see how bad you were when you started, right? And then you just keep going and keep progressing. I mean, that's really the secret, is growth, and continue to grow intellectually, physically, emotionally. Keep showing up and keep moving forward. And there will be setbacks. Particularly my last 4 years on the national team, I was having orthopedic surgeries every fall, and then spending all winter rehabbing it, trying to make the team again in the spring. And being in a cast or being in a sling, and so and rehab is no fun. And all my teammates are out going out and rowing. I'm sitting on the bloody stationary bike, and sweating and going nowhere. And but those setbacks too make you stronger, right? It's that resistance. It's like weightlifting. The more resistance, the stronger you get. Unless you stop. And so I guess that's what I would tell myself. At the time though too, I was just so boneheaded. It was just like tunnel vision too, and I was just like, I can't just keep showing up, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going until they, and I figure if they want me to leave, they'll tell me. And they just didn't. So I just kept showing up.
Yeah, I love that. I believe you still might be a campfire donor. Is that true? I should have verified that
Yes.
before. You are. Okay. So as a continued supporter of Campfire, what inspires you to give back, and why does Campfire remain meaningful to you?
Oh, so many reasons. Well, all of the programming that Campfire does for kids, I think is so important, so crucial, especially today in our current environment. And the everything from the swimming programs, so the kids don't drown, and the all of the different programs. Campfire is so much larger now in Alaska than it was when I was growing up, but the importance of the programming hasn't changed, and the lessons kids learn, and the leadership skills that they develop, and the sense of self and self-worth that they develop in those programs is so important. I tell you, man, I would not be in junior high school again for all the money in the world. It's worse, much worse now than it was when I was a kid. And so for those school age kids, starting from whenever campfire programs start up through whenever you age out of those programs, having that kind of supportive, nurturing, positive, self-affirming environment for kids is so important. And I think they can't get enough of that. And so Campfire's programs deliver that in a big way. I mean, I'm living proof. And and the camp experience, the day camp, the residence camps, it's harder to find an organization that is more service oriented than Campfire in terms of providing these important life lessons and guidance to young kids and young people. So what's not to love? In fact, I think I owe you guys some money, because there were a number of years there when I wasn't contributing, and I got some time to make up. I should write you a big check. Um, and but Because I certainly owe Campfire a lot.
Yeah, that was beautiful put. The more I learn about Campfire, because I didn't know much about it before I got to the nonprofit world, and I've learned a lot since I started, and talking to parents and alumni, and Yeah, incredible place, incredible organization. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you think you'd like to share about Campfire or that folks that support Campfire or kids that are currently in Campfire would want to hear?
Wow. Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah,
Um, well, keep up the good work, I guess, is one thing I would say.
yeah.
And thank you and all of the Campfire staff for what you do and what you've been doing through the years, what Campfire has done over all the many years that it's been active, in Alaska.
Hmm.
And uh, you know, um, kids need to learn that what's important is inside themselves, and their abilities and their dreams and their passions are valuable, and that if you follow your dreams and pursue your passions, even if you don't end up with one of these shiny gold medals, you will have grown and learned so much about yourself, and have obtained skills that will be meaningful for you, for your family members, for your loved ones, for your friends, and which your employers will also love, and to help you succeed in every aspect of your life. And so anyway, yeah, yeah, and for me, a lot of that started at Campfire.
Yeah, amazing.